So page 32. I'd say most of this should be pretty easy. Once you get the hang of it, with the X, Y, R, the only problem people generally have with like 2 to 28 is the simplifying the radical part. Because they're all basically the same question, right? X, Y, R. I'll see some people mess up some positives or negatives based on the quadrants, but what do you got? 28? I'm going to talk about those in a second. But up to 28, 2 to 28. Any hard ones? Yes. Absolutely. So 6 says -2, right? So again, all of these come down to what's your X, what's your Y, what's your R. So your X is -2, your Y is -2. We have to find our R. So -2 squared plus -2 squared equals R squared. So 4 plus 4 is 8. That's going to simplify to what? 2 root 2? So far, so good? So what's sine? Sine's going to be Y over R. And then the 2's will cancel, leaving me with -1 over the square root of 2, which is going to simplify to negative square root of 2 over 2. And then for cosine, it should be the exact same thing because it should start X over R. So it should also be negative root 2 over 2. Make sense? So real quick, I'm just going to read answers. Number 2, 3/5, -4/5. For -2 root 5 over 5, root 5 over 5. I just did 6, 8, 3/5, 4/5. 10, sine should be 4/5. 12, sine should be 12/13. 14 should be cosine is negative square root of 3 over 2. 16 is negative 12/13. 18 should be sine is 2 root 5 over 5, and then cosine is negative root 5 over 5. 20 is 3 root 13 over 13, and then 2 root 13 over 13. 22 should be negative 3 root 13 over 13, and then 2 root 13 over 13. 24, sine is square root of 3 over 2. 26 is 5/13, and 28 is square root of 11 over 6. Are we good so far? All right, the next ones, I wanted you to try them because these actually are part of one of the absolute most fundamental things that we're going to use in this class, to the point of there's going to be something coming very soon that I'm going to write on the board that I'm going to tell you you're going to have to memorize it. And that thing that I write on the board, I'm going to write it on the board probably 72 times this year. That's 30 and 32 are actually part of that. So I really wanted to make sure you guys have a good handle on 30 and 32. Okay? So, come on. Open that one. No, open. 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 I don't want to delete it. I want to open it. You are not helpful today. Oh, today, before I said, I think I told you guys I didn't really have a favorite pair of socks. I think today I am wearing my favorite pair of socks. I really do think these are my favorite socks. Are you ready for this? Mind-blowing stuff. You ever watch Finding Dory or Finding Nemo? You got the Mine sock. Mine birds. Those are good. Disney. Yeah, I bought socks at Disney World. I did. That happened. Okay. So, remember this thing going around and around the circle? We know sine is what? X, Y, R. Sine is y over r. So just talking sine. When I'm here, come on, move over. Good. Okay. When I'm at 0, okay? When I'm at 0, what are the coordinates of that point right here? That's 1, 0. And remember, for this whole time, what's r going to equal? 1, okay? So, when I'm here, sine value is going to be 0. And the reason is basically y over r, right? And what's my y right now? My y value is 0, right? 0 divided by 1 is going to be 0. As I start climbing, what's happening to my y value? It's getting bigger. I'm positive here, right? So while I'm in the first quadrant, sine is going to be positive, right? When I cross over to the second quadrant, is my y value still positive? Yes, right? Because all the points over here are negative x, but still a positive y, right? I'm still up here. So the question is going to become, when is sine going to be positive and when is sine going to be negative? Sine's going to be positive when I'm in the first quadrant. What's going to happen when it's in the second quadrant? It's also going to be positive. When is sine going to be negative? Third and fourth. So one of the most fundamental ideas that you have to understand is that sine is always going to be positive in the top 2 quadrants, and it's always going to be negative in the bottom 2 quadrants. Okay? Now cosine is different because cosine is now x over r, right? So the r is always positive, right? So what's going to determine whether cosine is positive or negative? Just the x value, right? So where are the x values positive? First and fourth. So one of the most fundamental ideas that you have to understand with these is that sine is always going to be positive in the top 2 quadrant, negative in the bottom 2. Cosine, on the other hand, is always going to be positive in the right 2 quadrants, negative on the left 2 quadrants. So number 30, what's it asking? When is sine less than 0? So when is sine negative? The third and the fourth quadrant, right? And cosine is positive. So when is cosine negative and when is sine negative? That'd be these 2 quadrants, right? And when is cosine positive? That'd be these 2 quadrants. Where's the overlap? Fourth quadrant. So the answer to number 30 is the fourth quadrant. What about number 32? When is sine, basically the way that reads, the way most people read this, when it's only talking about like positive or negative, when are they opposites of each other? When is one positive, one negative? Well, where are they not the same positive and negative? Second quadrant, we got a negative and a positive. 4, second and fourth, right? So the answer to number 32 is the second quadrant and the fourth quadrant. There absolutely will be quiz questions and test questions just like those on the next quiz and next test. They're not hard. I promise you will memorize, by the time it's all said and done, your quadrants of when things are positive and negative. I'll write them on the board enough. But, make sense? All right, pass those up.